Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to Stormgate Central. Today is an extremely exciting day for me, and I'm sure for you Stormgate fans out there as well, because finally they have revealed the third faction. Not only that, but we've also got a release date for the game. It is of course going to be coming in early access on the 13th of August. The game is going to be free to play. However, if you do want to get into the game a couple of weeks early on the 30th of July, you can purchase one of 3 early access packs. There's also going to be a big launch on Twitch on the 30th of July. Lots of your favorite streamers are going to be playing and streaming the game. So super exciting stuff. But in this video, I wanted to go over the third faction a little bit more. I've been lucky enough to get my hands on some footage directly from Frostgiant Games that I'm able to share with you guys. I can tell you guys I've been playing exclusively the third faction in the last Frigate playtest, so I do kind of know a decent amount about them at this point, what they do, what their sort of strengths and weaknesses are, and I thought we're going to go over that footage and show you guys some of it here, and I'll just give you my thoughts on it, do a little bit of a breakdown if you will. Hopefully I'm going to be able to share my own footage from the Frigate playtest at some point. I haven't gotten the permission to do that yet, but as soon as I do, I'll be showing you guys some of my games, some of the builds and the tactics and stuff that were going on in the Frigate playtest, and we'll of course be doing some casted games. Before we begin though guys, if you do enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you are subscribed. I will of course be covering everything Stormgate going into the future, especially when early access hits and we all have access to the game. We're going to be doing guides, builds, casts and all of that good stuff, so keep it here on the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for your support. So who are the Celestials? So they are basically this ancient angelic race that were here, I believe, before the humans, and they've been doing battle with the infernal host, as far as I understand it, for all eternity. So these are very old beings. They have a lot of technology that the human vanguard don't have. And the way that they actually construct their buildings is they beam them down, and I think they have these nanobots, they said, that basically construct the buildings for them. And so the main sort of thing of this race is that it's extremely mobile. You start off with the Ark ship that you can see hovering around there, and the Ark ship projects what they're calling a cascade field down on the ground. So you can build anywhere within that cascade field, and you can of course build adjacent to buildings. So the buildings themselves produce the cascade field and you can build within that, kind of similar to a pylon for Protoss. And so because this race are extremely mobile, a lot of it is designed around getting turrets and proxy buildings and these little power stations that can actually give your units energy. You can see those purple beams going from the batteries there onto these units called the Argent, and they're actually restoring their energy. That's kind of one of the main facets of this race. In fact, I think almost every single unit in the Celestial's Armada has energy, and they have some sort of a skill tied to that. So the basic infantry soldier you can see down on the ground here that are being powered by these batteries, these are called the Argents, and every time they fire they will expend some energy, but their attack does double damage. So once they're out of energy, their attack is only going to be doing half as much as it will be doing as if they had energy. So for this reason, you really want to be supporting them with batteries at the front line of your attack, and that's kind of the thought process there behind that. Once you run out of energy, you're going to be a little bit more vulnerable with those. However, they do get an upgrade that you can get for them, which basically makes them sit out of the fight for a few seconds, and at the end of those few seconds they will restore all of their energy. So they're kind of like you know, a bit of a go in, do some damage once you've got the energy, and then once you run out of energy, you really want to move out of there and restore some way. The next unit we have here are the Vectors, and you can see them glowing in blue here, and they actually have the ability to teleport somewhere and then recall to their original position. So those little glowing pink purpley circles, those are the original positions of the Vectors, and if you hit the ability again, you can recall there. Now every time you teleport or recall, it does cost energy, but again you can get an upgrade here which makes the energy cost of recalling free, and it also gives the Vectors the same health that they had when they teleported when you recall them. So these are fast moving, harassment, hidden run type units, and the idea is that you teleport into an area, you do some damage, and then you recall back out of there, hopefully with the energy and the health that you went in with. Then we have the Kree, and these are my overall favorite units for the Celestials here. These are built from the second production building, the mainframe. They kind of remind me a little bit of a Zealot. They have these multiple blades, and you can get an upgrade for them that allows them to roll around the map, which of course increases their movement speed. But once they meet an enemy, they'll sort of like unfurl themselves in a flurry of blade strikes and do AoE damage around them. So really, really strong against light armored units like Fiends, Gaunts, that kind of thing. And furthermore, when they get low on health, they will actually become invulnerable and then self-destruct after a few seconds. So they can really do wonders for your army composition and kind of, just give the enemy players something to think about there. Then we have the Saber. These are the siege vehicle for the Celestials. They fire this giant laser beam from a range, and they have two different abilities. One of them allows the Saber to move much faster, because you may notice they have an excruciatingly slow movement speed, but it comes at the cost of some health. And the other ability actually allows them to repair their own health. So they do have a self-repair, however, it will make the Saber extremely vulnerable while that's going on. And both of these abilities have a shared cooldown, so if you just use the boost ability to get yourself across the map and rejoin your main army, well, guess what? You're going to have taken some damage, and the repair ability is now going to be on cooldown, so you really do have to make a bit of a choice there. However, you do also get an upgrade for those that increases the efficacy of both of those abilities. Then we've got two different spellcasters for this race. So the first ones are called the Animancers, and as you can see here, they make these gigantic black holes that slow down enemy units and deal a ton of damage to them. And those purple thingies with the laser beams, those I believe are called the Cabals. In the playtest that we played, they didn't have any art, so they certainly didn't look like that, but I think that's what they are. Those are the second spellcasters, and they actually have a mind control ability so that they can take over other units. And finally, we have the flying unit for the Celestials. These are called the Scythes, and they have a really interesting ability. When they take damage, they will actually consume some of their energy and become immune for a few seconds, being able to tank any of that damage. So I guess the idea here is that your opponent is going to have to micro around this ability, and the goal there is going to be to try to trigger it for all of the Scythes at once, instead of just letting the front one tank all of the damage. Furthermore, they also do more damage with their attack the closer they are to a target. So unlike most flying units where you want to stay at the maximum range so that you can get away easily, with the Scythes, it's going to be a little bit more like Mutalisk play, where you really want that death ball to be like on top of the unit, take it out, and then get out of there. But once again, just like with many of the Celestial units here, once you run out of energy, you're not going to be able to use that invulnerability anymore, so you really do want to get out of there, get back to base or wherever your closest batteries are, and recharge that energy. So those are all of the units here, but let's talk a little bit about the Celestial mechanics, because as you may have noticed, they are rather different from the other two factions. So at the start of each game, you will have what they call a Morph Core, and this Morph Core can form into two different buildings. The first one is a collection array. You put it down on top of a Luminite mine, and it will automatically gather Luminite for you at a tick rate of 10 Luminite each tick. And the Morph Core is also a flying unit, which means you don't necessarily have to take your natural at the start of a game. You can move this thing over to the corner of the map, or the middle of a map, inside some hidden trees, or really anywhere you please. Now you can build more of these Morph Cores from your Arc ship, but you can also build a worker unit called a prism from the Arc ship, and you can use prisms for two things. First of all, they are used for mining therium, and second of all, they are used to boost the output of your collection array on top of a Luminite mine. So if you put 3 of these prisms on one collection array, it will actually double the output, increasing the tick rate of the Luminite from 10 per tick up to 20 per tick. Now, as I mentioned before, you can also use these to harvest therium, and they can return the therium directly to your Arc ship, but alternatively, you can take your Morph Core and morph it into the other building, which is called a Fabricator. Now, the Fabricator both acts as a drop-off point for therium, so you can put it down right next to a therium patch. It will also spawn with one prism there to start mining therium right away, and furthermore, the Fabricator can create more prisms for you. Another really interesting mechanics that these Celestials have is the rally system for their buildings. So you can basically designate one of the buildings, kind of like how it works in Command & Conquer if you've played those games, as the primary building, and all of your units of that type are going to come out of that building. So the first building is called a bastion. Let's say you have 5 bastions in your base. You go and build 1 proxy bastion on the other side of the map. You designate that as your primary building, and now all 6 of the Argents that you build out of those 6 bastions are going to come straight out of the proxy one. So this allows you to defend back home or use your buildings very offensively. As you can tell, this race is really all about that. It's about taking risk, building out on the map so that you have a foothold, you have those batteries down to restore the energy of your units. You're going to be putting production buildings out there so you can get them into the fight much faster. Actually, even the research buildings for this race, they have offensive abilities. So again, you've got a bit of a choice there. Do you want to do what you normally do with research buildings and hide them in the corner of your base so that they're well protected? Or do you want to put them on the front lines so that they can make use of their offensive abilities? Obviously, there's some risk reward there. It can be difficult and expensive if you do go out onto the map, especially with your arc ship being there to allow the building and you lose the arc ship. It costs like, I think, 500 luminite, maybe 600 to build a new arc ship, so it is not cheap. And one final mechanic of the race that I just want to cover here is the energy system. So the batteries, not only do they charge your units up with additional energy, they also power your base. So if your base gets low on energy, you won't be able to build any more buildings. However, you will still be able to construct units out of the buildings that you already have. So as you expand your base, you need to create more of these batteries. By the way, I keep calling them batteries. I know they're not called batteries, they're actually called power banks. Furthermore, these also allow you to use your top bar abilities. If you lose too much power, you won't be able to use any of the abilities at the top there. So just to quickly run over the abilities, the first one allows you to power down or power up a building. It doesn't cost you anything. You can do this, I believe, as many times as you want. So if you are kind of in the shit and you really need some power back, you can power off some of your production buildings to gain that. The second ability allows you to turn any one of your buildings into a really powerful turret. This is great defensively. You can also land your arc ship. I don't think I mentioned that, but you can land the arc ship and it will have an attack then. So you can use this to defend your own base at the start of a game, or you can use it offensively in a proxy rush to attack the enemy. And then this Guardian's Wrath ability is extremely powerful if you put it on that building. The third ability is a scan. So the Vanguard get the dog to scout with, the Infernals get the Hexen, the new caster unit that they can spawn the skull with to scout with, but the Celestials don't really get any scouting units, so instead they actually get the scan ability. Now all of these abilities are on their own cooldowns, so you don't have any resource that you have to manage the same way you do with the Vanguard. You may as well be making use of all of them at the same time. The fourth ability actually allows you to send a beam of light down to kill a creep camp, and the fifth one sends another beam of light down that restores the energy of your friendly units and takes energy away from enemy units. So there you go, guys. That was a pretty quick overview of the Celestials. I will be doing another video on this a little bit more in depth once I'm able to use my own footage. You can also expect to see some casted games. Just a bit of a heads up that I am pre-recording this video before the PC gaming show. Actually, the day after that show, I'm going to be leaving to vacation for a couple of weeks. So if you guys don't see much content here on the channel, that's the reason behind it. Don't worry, I haven't abandoned it or anything like that, and I very much look forward to getting back and of course later on in the summertime jumping into early access with you guys, playing some games with you, casting some games, doing some build guides and all that good stuff. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on all of that content. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video down below, guys, and leave a comment as well. Let me know what you guys think about the third faction. Is it what you expected? Are you surprised about it? What do you think overall? Leave it down below. Cheers for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.